Dobar dan.
Dobar dan.
We've been talking about laws of health.
Govorimo o zakonima zdravlja.
So far we've covered 2 laws of health.
Za sad smo pokrili 2 zakona zdravlja.
We'll eventually look at 8.
I mi ćemo proći kroz svih 8.
We've looked at diet,
Gledali smo kroz ishranu,
exercise,
fizičku aktivnost.
and now we're going to talk about water.
Sad ćemo govoriti o vodi.
You say, is that a law?
Da li je voda zakon?
Try living without it.
Probajte da živite bez nje.
Now many people try to do that.
Većina ljudi je probalo to da učini.
They never drink water, they drink everything else in the world.
Oni ne piju vodu, ali piju sve drugo u svetu.
But the body needs just good old H2O.
Ali telu je potrebno H2O.
Okay? 92% of your blood volume is water.
92% vaše krvi je voda.
And what does that mean?
Šta to znači?
If you don't drink enough water,
Ako ne pijete dovoljno vode,
blood's going to get thicker.
Krv će biti gušća.
It is a fluid, as you might have noticed sometimes.
Ako primetite, to je tečnost.
Okay? Your brain,
Vaš mozak
it's going to be about 85% water.
je oko 85% voda.
Now, an interesting study came out about 35 years ago,
Pre 35 godina jedna interesantna studija je izašla,
and it was about the number 1 killer in Serbia.
gdje je govorilo koji je broj 1 ubica u Srbiji.
And one of the top killers in every other developed country.
Ali ne samo u Srbiji, već i u drugim razvijenim zemljama.
What's the number 1 killer here in Serbia?
Koji je broj 1 ubica u Srbiji?
Strokes.
Moždani udar.
So, the study told us how we could reduce strokes by 80%.
Istraživanje je pokazalo šta možemo da uradimo da smanjimo moždane udare za 80%.
And it's something anyone can do
I to je nešto što svako može da uradi,
if they're willing.
ako su oni voljni.
Here's what all the study said.
I evo šta istraživanje kaže.
You notice as you get older, you got to go to the bathroom more at night.
Primetili ste što ste stariji, vi morate češće da idete u WC.
It says, if you get up, go to the toilet,
Kaže, ako ideš u WC,
drink a glass of water.
popi čašu vode.
If you have to go to the toilet the second time,
Ako morate drugi put odati u WC,
drink another glass of water.
popite još jednu čašu vode.
As many times as you go to the bathroom, drink a glass of water.
Koliko god budete puta išli u WC, svaki put popite čašu vode.
And we're not talking about a great big glass.
Ja ne govorim o nekoj velikoj čaši,
150 milliliters.
150 mililitara.
It's just something to rehydrate a little bit with.
To je nešto samo da možete da hidrirate.
But some people say, if I do this, I got to go to the toilet more.
A neko će reći, ako ja to često radim, ići ću još više u WC.
You got a choice.
Imaš izbor.
Go to the toilet more,
Idi češće u WC
go to the hospital one time
ili u bolnicu samo jedan puta
with your stroke.
sa vašim moždanim udarom.
My recommendation is, let's not have a stroke.
Moj savjet vam je, hajde da nemamo moždani udar.
Your muscles,
Vaši mišići
75% water.
su 75% voda.
Now, if any of you have been endurance athletes,
Ako ste vi neki od onih koji su naporne fizičku aktivnost imaju,
now for me, I was a marathoner.
evo kao na primjer ja sam bio maratonac,
But even if you go out and play football for a couple of hours,
ali ako hoćete da igrate fudbal na nekoliko sati,
you got to drink water.
vi morate da pijete vodu.
If you run a marathon,
Ako trčite maraton
all along the way there will be tables.
i duž staze za trčanje će biti stolovi,
You grab glasses of water and throw it down and keep on running.
znači zgrabite čašu vode, popijete i bacite i nastavite da trčite.
Water increases the endurance by 80%.
Voda povećava izdržljivost 80%.
You got to drink it.
Vi morate da je pijete.
Okay? Our bones,
Naše kosti,
20 to 25% water.
20 do 25% su voda.
So what might happen if we're not drinking enough water?
I šta može se desiti ako ne pijemo dovoljno vode?
Our bones become brittle.
Znači, naše kosti postaju krhkije.
Our teeth,
Naši zubi,
they're 10% water.
oni su 10% voda.
Now there's some drugs that will dry up the mucous membranes in the mouth.
Postoje neki lekovi koji će osušiti sluzdavost u vašim ustima.
Those people, their teeth rot away.
Zubi tih ljudi puno brže istrunu.
You need water to keep yourself hydrated in the mouth.
Znači, vama je potrebna voda da bi hidrirali sebe u ustima.
So how do you know if you're drinking enough water?
I kako znate da vi pijete dovoljno vode?
Well, there are some signs of dehydration.
Postoje neki znaci dehidracije.
You know what the first sign is?
Znate koji je prvi znak?
Thirst.
Žeđ.
If you're thirsty,
Ako ste žedni,
it means that you are not drinking enough water.
to znači da ne pijete dovoljno vode.
Now, this happens sometime in the evening time.
A ovo se dešava pogotovo u večernjim satima.
Your body sends a signal, hey, drink some more water.
Vaše telo pošalje signal, popij više vode.
It's 8, 9 o'clock in the evening.
I to je otprilike oko 8-9 uveče.
But your brain misinterprets the message.
Ali vaš mozak ne pročita poruku kako treba.
It doesn't hear thirsty.
On ne čuje žeđ,
It hears hungry.
on osjeća glad.
And that's not a good time to be eating a meal.
I to nije dobro vreme kada vi treba da večerate.
Next time that happens, just drink a glass of water.
Sljedeći put kad se to desi,
It'll
popite
usually take away that desire for food.
čašu vode i ono će otkloniti vašu želju za hranom.
Now, a big sign of dehydration is headache.
Veliki znak dehidracije je glavobolja.
Now, there are various types of headaches,
Postoje raznovrsne glavobolje,
but I would imagine that the dehydration headache is the most common one.
ali ja pretpostavljam da je najčešći uzrok dehidracija.
Now, you can test to see whether you have a dehydration headache.
Vi možete da testirate da vidite da li imate glavobolju zbog dehidracije.
Next time you get a headache,
Sljedeći put kad imate glavobolju,
drink a glass of water
popijte čašu vode
every 10 minutes for an hour.
svakih 10 minuta u toku sat vremena.
If the headache goes away,
Ako glavobolja ode,
probably meant that you were dehydrated.
verovatno znači da ste bili dehidrirani.
It could also be from a food sensitivity.
Može da bude razlog je da ste osetljivi na određenu hranu,
But all that water is pretty much flushed out your system.
ali većina te vode je već izašla iz vašeg sistema.
Another sign of dehydration,
Još jedan znak dehidracije,
that's going to be bad breath.
loš zadah.
Okay? Now, bad breath is a problem with a lot of people.
Loš zadah je problem sa dosta ljudi.
Let me make a recommendation.
Evo da vam dam jedan savjet
If you know you have bad breath,
i preporuku. Ako znate da imate loš zadah,
get some oil,
uzmite neko ulje,
olive oil, whatever you want.
maslino ulje ili bilo koje drugo ulje,
Put a big spoonful in your mouth.
stavite kašik u vaša usta
And then run it around your mouth.
i onda ih promućkajte ustima,
Suck it through your teeth.
isisate ih kroz zube
Keep it in there for about 20 minutes.
i držite to u ustima 20 minuta.
Now it's going to mix with your saliva. It's going to get rather thin.
I ono će se pomešati sa pljuvačkom i bit će razređeno.
After 20 minutes, spit it out.
Posle 20 minuta ispljunite.
Don't swallow it.
Nemojte da progutate to.
It's pulled all the bacteria between your teeth that makes things smelly out of your mouth.
Ono će izvući sve bakterije koje stvaraju taj loš zadah iz vaših usta.
Then brush your teeth well into your tongue and your gums.
Onda dobro operite zube između desni i jezika.
You'll be amazed at how nice your mouth feels.
Bićete iznenađeni kako će lepo vaše usta da se osjećaju.
Dry mouth and dry lips.
Suva usta i usne.
You know, and we get this a lot in the winter time.
Mi ovo često imamo u toku zimskog perioda.
So what do we normally do?
Šta mi obično radimo?
Put chapstick on our lips.
Stavljamo lobelo na naše usne.
Does dry lips, is it caused by not enough chapstick?
Da li su suve usne uzrok jer nemamo dovoljno lobela?
No, it's caused by dehydration.
Ne, uzrok je dehidracija.
And in the wintertime, we don't drink as much water.
I u toku zime mi ne pijemo dovoljno vode.
We think we don't need it.
Mi mislimo da nam nije potrebna.
I'll talk about that in a minute.
Ja ću govoriti za par minuta o tome.
Drink your water.
Popite vodu.
How about coughing?
Šta ćemo sa kašljem?
First thing, before you go to the doctor, just drink a glass of water.
Prva stvar, pre nego što odete kod doktora, popite čašu vode.
Now, that might not be the cause for a lot of coughs.
Najverovatnije to nije uzrok kod većine kašalja.
But if you're speaking a lot,
Ako vi govorite dosta,
every time you talk, you're losing water through vapor.
svaki put kada govorite, vi u vidu pare gubite vodu.
And pretty soon, you get that dry cough.
I uskoro ćete imati taj suvi kašalj.
Drink some water.
Popite vodu.
Not enough water is going to make you feel tired.
Nedostatak vode će vas činiti da budete umorni.
Well, remember, water increases endurance by 80%.
Ali voda vam povećava izdržljivost 80%.
We need to drink water to stay vibrant and alive.
Znači, nama je potrebno da pijemo vodu ako hoćemo da ostanemo živi.
Now, this is a big sign of dehydration.
Ovo je veliki znak dehidracije.
That's going to be constipation.
To je obstipacija ili konstipacija.
Now, I'm not going to go into a long discussion about constipation.
Ja neću ići neke velike razgovore u vezi obstipacije,
But if you're not drinking much water, your body is going to have very hard stools,
ali ako ne pijete dovoljno vode, vaša stolica će biti tvrda.
which means you're going to be straining to get that stool out of your body.
Što znači da ćete se napinjati da bi eliminisali tu stolicu.
And that causes a lot of other problems,
A to uzrokuje druge probleme,
like varicose veins,
proširene vene
yeah, or diverticula.
ili divertikulu.
And if you keep diverticula long enough, then you got diverticulitis.
I ako tu divertikulu ima tu duže vreme, onda postoje to divertikulazacija.
Yeah, we don't want that.
Mi ne želimo to.
Okay. Hemorrhoids
Hemoroidi
and hiatus hernia.
i kila.
Okay. And if we have those things, it's all a sign that we've been squeezing too hard trying to get rid of that hard stool.
I razlog zašto imamo sve ovo je zato što se mi napinjamo da bi eliminisali stolicu.
I'm going to give you a little test that you can do
Daću im jedan test koji možete da uradite.
to see how well your movement of your bowels is working.
Da vidite kako se vaša creva kreću.
Okay? So if you take, let's say, some charcoal,
Ako uzmete malo aktivnog uglja,
with or before, after meal, doesn't matter,
pre obroka ili posle obroka, nije bitno,
and you just mix it with some powder in the water,
pomešate malo aktivno uglje sa vodom,
and then drink it
popite to
and mark the time.
i zapišite vreme kad ste popili.
Now, when it comes out of your body, it will be black.
Kad izađe iz vašeg tela, ono će biti crno.
It may be black the second time it comes out of your body.
Možda bude i drugi put crno kad izađe iz vašeg tela stolica.
When it's no longer black,
Kada više nije crna,
that was how long it took the body to go from the mouth to the toilet.
to vam koliko je vremena pošlo od kada je došlo u usta dok nije izašlo iz WC-a.
Now, if you are not constipated,
Ako nemate obstipaciju,
that whole process will take between 18 and 30 hours.
taj ceo proces će trajati između 18 do 30 sati.
That's the way we want it to be.
To je toliko koliko vi želite.
Now, if it goes too fast,
Ali ako ide prebrzo,
we call that diarrhea.
onda mi to nazivamo prolivom.
Too slow, constipation.
Presporo, obstipacija.
So let's say you're constipated.
Ajmo da kažemo da imate obstipaciju.
You drank your charcoal water.
Popijete vodu sa aktivnim ugljem,
You're watching the toilet.
pogledate u toalet,
It's going to be longer than 30 hours.
biće duže od 30 sati.
We measure it in days.
Onda ga merimo u danima.
It can be up to 7 days
Čak može da bude do 7 dana.
before the last of the black is out of your body.
Dok zadnji deo aktivnog uglja, tog crnog, nije izašao iz vašeg tela.
That's doing some serious damage.
To čini velika oštećenja.
Not just the squeezing.
Ne samo stiskanje.
The longer your food has contact with your digestive system,
Što duže vaša hrana ima kontakt sa digestivnim traktom,
the more possibilities it has of giving up its toxins.
ima veću mogućnost da otpusti toksine.
And we are living in a toxic world.
A mi živimo u toksičnom svetu.
Another sign of dehydration,
Još jedan znak dehidracije,
the color of your urine.
boja vaše mokraće.
If you know what color beer is,
Ako znate koje boje pivo,
that should not be the color of your urine.
to ne bi trebalo da bude iste boje kao vaša mokraća.
It should be very pale.
Treba bude jako svetlo.
And that's a good sign if it's pale.
I to je dobro ako je jako svetlo.
Dry eyes.
Suve oči.
Now there are diseases that cause dry eyes. I understand that.
Postoje bolesti koje izazivaju da su vam oči suve,
But if it seems like your eyes are always dry and itchy,
ali ako vam se čini da su oči svrbe i da su stalno suve,
or you have vision problems,
ili imate problema sa vidom,
the problem very well may that you are dehydrated.
u većini slučajeva problem može da bude da ste dehidrirani.
Now your body has a certain amount of water in it.
Znači, vaše telo ima određenu količinu vode.
It tries to maintain that perfect level.
Ono pokušava da održi taj savršeni nivo.
But if you are getting dehydrated,
Ali ako ste dehidrirani,
it will look around to see where can we stop giving the water.
ono će da gleda, da vidi gde možemo da ne ispuštamo vodu, da ne gubimo vodu.
For some people, it will reduce your sweat,
Kod nekih ljudi ono će umanjiti znojenje,
which will make your temperature go up.
što će uzrokovati da imate povišenu temperaturu.
So if your temperature goes up, it means that you're not sweating enough.
I ako je vaša temperatura povećana, to znači da se vi ne znojite dovoljno.
So what do we need to drink?
Šta je potrebno da pijemo?
Water.
Voda.
An interesting study was done.
Interesantno istraživanje je učinjeno.
Looking at the amount of water a person drinks and their risk of coronary heart disease mortality.
Rizik od smrtnosti bolesti srca u odnosu koliko ljudi vode piju.
Okay? So they looked at a group of people who are drinking 2 or less glasses of water a day.
Gledali su grupu ljudi koje pije manje od 2 čaše vode na dan.
Relative risk of 1 of dying.
Relativni rizik 1 je od umiranja.
And then those drinking 5 or more glasses of water a day.
U poređenju s onima koji piju 5 i više čaša vode na dan.
All right, for women,
Za žene
mortality down 41%.
smrtnost se smanjila na 41%,
For men, it was down 54%.
a za muškarce 54%.
That's pretty good numbers.
To su dobri brojevi.
But sometimes we drink things other than water,
Ali nekada mi pijemo i druge stvari osim vode.
and we think that's going to fulfill our need.
I mi mislimo da će to zadovoljiti naše potrebe.
Well, this study looked at that too.
To istraživanje i to sagledalo.
Those drinking 2 or less other fluids a day,
Ovi koji piju 2 čaše na dan drugih tečnosti,
relative risk of 1 of dying of heart disease.
relativni rizik je 1 od umiranja od bolesti srca.
Those drinking 5 or more other fluids,
Ovi koji piju 5 i više vrsta tečnosti na dan,
men
čaša,
146% increased risk of heart disease.
oni povećavaju rizik od bolesti srca 146%.
Women, 247% increased risk of heart disease.
A žene povećavaju 247% uzrok od bolesti srca.
We need to drink our water.
Mi moramo da pijemo našu vodu.
Now, I mentioned earlier about people thinking, well, it's winter, we don't need to drink as much water.
Vi se sjećate da sam ja pomenuo da neki ljudi misle da u toku zime oni ne moraju da piju toliko vode.
In 1952,
1952.
there was a mountain climbing team from Switzerland.
Postoje tim planinari iz Švajcarske.
They decided to try to climb the world's highest mountain.
Oni su odlučili da se popnu na vrh najviše planine na svetu.
As far as we know, it had never been climbed before that.
Do tog vremena niko se nije popeo na taj vrh.
So this team did all their training, got everything ready.
Znači, ovaj tim je imao kompletan trening, sve su radili.
Started climbing.
I počeli su se penju.
They got 200 meters from the top.
Njime je nedostalo 200 metara do vrha.
They did not have energy to go on.
Oni nisu imali snage da nastave dalje.
The next year,
Sljedeće godine,
1953,
1953.
there was another team that was going to try climbing the same mountain.
Postoji drugi tim koji je odlučio da se popne na istu planinu.
But this team had a special member on that team.
Ali na ovom timu je bio jedan poseban član tima,
A doctor named John Hunt.
Dr. John Hunt.
Now, what difference did he make?
Koju razliku on napravio?
He studied the Swiss team's records.
On je izučavao izveštaj švajcarskog tima.
He was looking for where was their mistake.
I on je gledao da nađe gde je njihova greška bila.
He looked very hard.
I on je dosta naporno tražio.
And then he finally found their problem.
I onda je konačno našao njihov problem.
While they were climbing, they were drinking 2 glasses of water a day.
I kako su se oni penjali, oni su samo pili 2 čaše vode na dan.
Now, if you know anything about Mount Everest, the highest mountain,
Ako znate nešto o planini Everest i visini,
it's noted for how many people it has killed.
poznato je koliko je ljudi izgubilo živote tamo.
As a matter of fact, as you climb the mountain,
U stvari, kako se vi penjete uz tu planinu,
you know how far you are by certain dead people along the way.
možda vidite po tome koliko je mrtvih ljudi usput bilo.
They freeze to death.
Oni se smrznu.
So Dr. Hunt made a suggestion.
I dr. Hunt je dao jedan predlog.
Let's carry more bottles of fuel
Hajde da koristimo više boca goriva,
so we can melt more ice and snow,
tako da možemo da otopimo sneg i led.
so we can have more water.
Tako da možemo da imamo više vode.
And that's what they did.
I to je ono što su oni učinili.
They were drinking 12 glasses of water a day.
Oni su pili 12 čaša vode na dan.
That's 3 liters.
To je 3 litre.
Now, if I would ask you to name somebody from the Swiss team,
I kada bi vas zamolio da imenujete nekog iz švajcarskog tima,
you probably cannot name a person on that team.
vjerovatno ne možete se setiti ni jednog imena.
And of course, nowadays, you probably couldn't name anybody from the New Zealand team.
Ovih dana vjerovatno ne možete se setiti ni imena ljudi iz novozelandskog tima.
But they're very famous, at least wise, the New Zealanders a very famous name.
Ali u Novom Zelandu su ovo poznata imena.
Name is Sir Edmund Hillary.
Edmund Hillary.
And his Sherpa guide was Tenzing Norgay.
I njegov vodič je bio Tenzing Norgay.
They're the ones that made it to the top.
Njih dvojca su uspeli da se popnu na vrh.
They drank their water.
Oni su pili svoju vodu.
You know, it's sort of sad.
Znate, tužno je
We don't drink enough water,
da ne pijemo dovoljno vode.
and that it is available everywhere.
A ona je svugde dostupna.
Now, I agree that a lot of our water is not the most quality of water.
Ja se slažem da većina vode koju pijemo nije kvalitetna.
If you live in a city, it's been treated.
Ako živite u gradu, ona je u većini slučajeva tretirana.
If you live in a village, you might be getting it out of a well, and it might be bacteria down there.
Ako živite u selu i vučete iz bunara, tu možda postoje neke bakterije.
You can fix these things.
Vi možda popravite ove stvari.
Get some sticks of charcoal, put them in your water.
Stavite neke štapiće od aktivnog uglja u vodu.
It will take up the toxins in your water.
Ono će izvući toksine iz vode.
But the number one killer in Africa of children.
Ali broj jedan ubica dece u Africi.
Now, the number one killer in the world is the mosquito.
A broj jedan ubica u svetu je komarac.
with the diseases that it carries with it.
Sa bolestima koje nosi sa sobom,
But of young people in Africa,
ali mladi ljudi u Africi,
it's dehydration.
to je dehidracija.
You say, why?
Neko bi reći zašto?
Well, I've spent time in Africa.
Ja sam proveo vreme u Africi.
I've seen where they had to go to get their water.
Ja sam vidio gde oni moraju da idu da bi uzeli vodu.
That's the water they drink.
Ovo je voda koju oni piju.
That's the water that they cook with.
Ovo je voda s kojom oni kuvaju.
And in much of Africa, when a person has to go to the toilet, they just won't go to the toilet.
I u većini mesta u Africi, kada treba da idu na veliku nuždu, oni samo odu na nuždu.
And it always seeks the lowest place.
I ona se uvek slegne i ide na najniži deo.
So a child will go down, and sometimes they walk for a long way to get their water.
I nekada oni dugo šetaju da bi došli do vode.
They'll get the water,
Uzeli bi vodu,
go home, they're thirsty, they'll take a drink of water.
bili bi žedni, popili bi vodu.
It's got microorganisms that's going to react on their body.
Tu će biti mikroorganizmi koji će da odreaguju na njihovo telo.
They get diarrhea.
Dobit će proliv,
They vomit.
oni povraćaju.
If they do that long enough,
Ako oni to rade duži vremenski period,
they're going to get dehydrated.
oni će biti dehidrirani.
So you give more water, right?
Oni piju još vode, zar ne?
Just adds to the problem.
To samo dodaje još problemu.
You know, developed countries send a lot of stuff to Africa.
Razvijene zemlje šalju dosta stvari u Afriku.
They send a lot of medications,
Oni puno lekova šalju tamo.
a lot of things to help fight the malaria.
Puno stvari koji pomažu u borbi protiv malarije.
And this is good.
I to je dobro,
But here's what the World Health Organization says.
ali evo šta kaže zdravstvena organizacija, Svetska zdravstvena organizacija.
If we could give developed countries good sources of water,
Ako u razvijenim zemljama možemo imati dovoljnu količinu kvalitetne vode,
diseases would go down 80%.
bolesti će se smanjiti 80%.
Think of all the lives that could be saved.
Zamislite samo koliko života bi moglo da bude spašeno.
There's lots of organizations now that are going to Africa to drill wells.
Postoji puno organizacija koji idu u Afriku da buše bunare.
That's what they need.
To je ono što im je potrebno.
But it doesn't just happen this way in Africa.
Ali ovo se ne dešava samo u Africi.
I knew a young family in America,
Ja sam znao jednu porodicu u Americi,
a husband, wife, and two little boys.
Muž i žena i dvoje male dece.
Now, the man, he liked to study.
I muškarac, on je voleo dosta da studira, uči.
So he put the boys to bed one night,
I jedno veče je stavio decu da spavaju
and he was studying.
i on je učio.
And then his youngest son came in.
I onda je njegov mlađi sin došao,
He had diarrhea.
imao je proliv,
He'd thrown up.
povraćao je,
Daddy,
tata,
Father, he put the book down,
stavio je knjigu sa strane,
cleaned him up, put him back in bed, came back to his book.
očistio ga je i vratio se učenju.
Well, he had diarrhea again,
Ali opet ima proliv,
threw up again.
opet je povraćao.
Daddy,
Tata,
he had to get up, put his book down, and he did this a number of times
opet je morao knjigu staviti po strani, on je tako radio više puta.
until finally the little boy didn't come out again.
Dok dečak nije izašao iz te sobe više.
He was glad for that.
Njemu je bilo drago.
He could study.
On je mogao da uči.
Well, the next morning his son was unresponsive,
Sljedeće jutro njegovo dete nije odgovaralo.
very hot.
Jako je toplo mu bilo.
So they took him to the hospital.
Odveli su ga u bolnicu.
They had him medevaced to a bigger hospital,
I oni su ga prebacili u još veću bolnicu.
and they did everything they could,
I sve su učinili što su mogli,
but he died.
ali je on umro.
In a developed country,
U razvijenoj zemlji.
I believe that we've got a lot of people dying right now because they're not drinking enough water.
Ja verujem da mi i dalje imamo puno ljudi koji umiru zato što ne piju dovoljno vode.
I know it sounds rather simplistic,
Ja znam da ovo dosta jednostavno zvuči,
just too simple,
previše jednostavno.
but our bodies are 70% water.
Ali naše je telo 70% voda.
If we do not keep that level right,
Ako mi ne održimo taj nivo,
we're opening the door for all kinds of problems. I just showed you some of them.
mi otvaramo problema sa mi otvaramo vrata ka drugim problemima. Ja sam samo pokazao neke od njih.
Drink your water.
Popite vodu.